I was originally planning on telling my stories in chronological order, but I don't think that's what I want to do, partially because I don't always remember them in order of occurrence. So I'm going to tell this one because it's my favorite. It is by far the scariest, the most real, and at the same time it sounds like it's a movie and I'm crazy, but I'm going to give you guys the benefit of the doubt, and if you believe me, great. If you don't, well, there's nothing I can do about that now, is there? I usually tell only close friends and occasionally family members this story. Not everybody knows this story, but I'm going to tell it anyway because I'm sure there are people out there who have experienced something similar, if not something much worse. Now, I was in high school at the time. I was about 16. I had a really good friend. I'm not going to mention her name. She and I were going to do a talent show together. We were both going to sing, and I was going to play the guitar. And we did a little bit of practicing at school, but we decided we wanted to practice outside of school. So she invited me over to her place on a Friday, and I would stay over and go home on Saturday, and then I'd have to go to work on Sunday. You know, I was 16, had a part-time job. So this girl actually was among a couple people that I was friends with that actually went to the high school from about 2 hours away. It was one of the better schools, I guess, in the small vicinity, but it was so far that these kids would have a 2 hour bus ride. So I just remember slinging my guitar on my back and getting on the bus and like, oh my god, I'm gonna be on the bus for 2 hours. But it was a lot of fun. Everybody entertained each other, you know, we had a good chat, whatever. Anyway, I remember the bus pulling up at a stop sign and my friend being like, okay, here we are. So I got up and I followed her off the bus, and she walks, I think, a couple meters, and then she turns, she's like, oh, here's my house. And I remember looking and turning, and it was this great, big, grand looking old house, but it was kind of shabby looking at the same time. It looked like it needed a bit of paint, a bit of work, but at the same time there was something about it that kind of drew you in. It was a 3-story house. It was gigantic. It had a wraparound porch. It was absolutely beautiful, and at the same time absolutely creepy. It had a factor of allure to it, and you felt like it was like somebody was taking your arm and gently leading you to the front door. Regardless, I didn't have a choice. This was where I was going to be staying for the night, so I followed my friend in, no problem. She opened the door, and there was a beautiful staircase, dark floors. They still had a lot of the original, I think it was mantles and chimneys and such, the fireplace. Fireplace is the word I'm looking for. They still had the original fireplaces, but unfortunately they were filled in. But my gosh, the house was absolutely gorgeous. They had an old 1950s style stove that they had gotten from a manufacturer that still makes them. And it was just gorgeous. I remember walking in and just thinking, this house is like out of a fairy tale. But at the same time, there was a feeling of being watched. Now, I know a lot of people describe this feeling, but it really truly felt like somebody was constantly standing behind you, or someone was looking at you from a place where you couldn't see them, but you were being watched. So I followed my friend up the stairs, and she had the original master bedroom, and she'd done a beautiful job with it. She painted it like an aqua blue, and she had a beautiful canopy bed. It was very pretty. There were like 3 big windows, and I just remember looking around the room and thinking, wow, she is so lucky to live in a house like this. Now, her mom's boyfriend actually took us out for dinner with his kids, and we had a great time. It was really awesome, good food, lots of laughs. We got home around 1 o'clock in the morning, and everybody was really exhausted except for me. I was wide awake. I'm a night owl. And we went up to my friend's room, and because she had a double bed, we were going to share the bed. Not a problem. And it was really weird because I remember getting into bed, laying back, both saying goodnight, and she was out. Like, nothing. Like, took this girl no time at all to fall asleep. And I was just kind of laying there, just, I guess, thinking about the talent show, and I was excited about it, and I kind of closed my eyes, and then I heard something. I heard the door to her room open, like, just slowly swing open. And I sit up and I look, and I expect to see her mother standing there, or her brother, or someone who, I don't know, had something to say. And I sat up, and there's no one there. Okay, fair enough, there's a draft. Definitely just a draft. It's an old house, it's gonna happen. I lay back down, decide to close my eyes, and that's when it starts. to really happen. Now, this is really weird, but it's the honest truth, and I don't understand why I heard these things or what they meant. Perhaps if I had a better history of the house or the events, I would have known, but to me, it just seemed so peculiar, and it still seems weird to this day. Her bed was against the wall, the headboard was against the wall, and I could hear within the wall as if somebody was moving jars, like giant mason jars, around on a wooden table. Just that very slow drag feeling of glass against wood. And it was as if they were moving them around in circles, and I just remember thinking, what in the world? I open my eyes and I look over and I see her curtains are starting to move on one of the windows, and then the second window, and then the third. They're all moving, and I know for a fact there are no vents and no air coming through any of those windows. The windows are closed and the vents are on the other side of the room. So I'm hearing jars, I'm seeing the windows move, and then I hear outside what sounds like a horsewhip and then horseshoes on pavement, followed by the wheels of a buggy, as if a horse and buggy is outside and someone's going for a ride somewhere. This is 2007. There's no such thing as someone using a horse and buggy. I don't understand why I'm hearing this, and it's all happening at once, and I'm laying there thinking, I'm crazy. I need to get to sleep. This is just bizarre. I turn over to see if my friend is still asleep, and then I see the one thing I never, ever want to see when I go somewhere. I saw a ghost. It was a woman. She was rather tall. She had a long black dress on with a small white collar, and her hair was dark and up in a bun on top of her head. And she was just standing there, looking down at my friend, just looking at her, watchful. And then she looked at me, as if to say, "Who are you? What are you doing here? I demand you tell me why you're here." Just extremely protective, as if she were my friend's own mother. I was so scared, I turned over and I curled up into a ball, and I was telling myself, it's not real, it's not real, you're dreaming, you're imagining it, it's not real. The noises did not stop. I turned over, woman was still there. I just turned up into a little ball, closed my eyes and clenched my fists, and I stayed awake until 6 a.m. when the sun rose. I was so scared. I had never been so terrified in my life. So we get up and we go downstairs to have breakfast, and she's cooking something, and I just casually say to her, "Is your house haunted, by chance?" And she looks at me and she goes, "Yeah, a couple years ago we had a blessing because my curtains used to move. Nothing's happened since." My stomach jumped into my throat, and I told her, "Well, guess what? Whatever you got rid of came back. She's still there." So we did a little bit of research into the house, and we found out that the home had been owned by the man who ran the newspaper, the Chronicle. The man had died in the 1940s and had probably given it to his daughter. We're not sure. We couldn't find anything else on the matter. Then we decided to do something extremely dangerous, and it was completely my fault, and it's something I will never do again. At least not without the supervision of someone who truly knows what they're doing. I used a pendulum, and I recorded the entire thing. I got a name, and I heard a voice. I remember saying, "Is there someone here who'd like to communicate?" And on the tape, when we played it back, I heard someone say, "Yes." I was so freaked out, I turned the thing off. I threw the pendulum down and I said, "You know what, I'm done. No more." My mom came to pick me up. It was pouring rain, and I told her the whole story on the way home. Honestly, I don't think she believes me. But my friend knows what happened, and so do I. And I'm still scared.